The story continued as Wu Yu reached the registration site. The registration was simple as it was merely reporting one's name, and which peak one belongs to. The organizer had the data in his hand. He raised his head to look at Wu Yu and asked if he is at the 6th tier body refining realm, as Wu Yu was not recorded as a cultivator in the records. As Wu Yu nodded, the organizer allowed Wu Yu to go ahead and try his strength to be eligible for the exam. Behind the organizer stood 100 bulky, energetic war horses. Each war horse was complete and had a fiery temper. The war horses were tied to pull ropes, and Wu Yu, under the direction of the organizer, gripped the rope. It was simple to verify whether he was really at the 6th tier through a tug-of-war with 100 war horses. The organizer then cracked his whip on the horses. The horses felt the pain and began to run in a frenzy. Their energy brought a terrifying power charging down the rope. The 100 war horses raised a thick cloud of dust as fearsome as any enemy on the battlefield. But Wu Yu had been prepared. With both hands gripping the rope, he used all strength of his body's muscles, tendons, and bones to drag the 100 war horses back. After the approval of his eligibility, the organizer gave Wu Yu a red paper talisman, and told him, if his life is in danger, or he wants to surrender, he can just crush the talisman and the immortal sect disciples will save him. Wu Yu held the red talisman. On it was complex symbols that he could not understand, but he could feel its power. The organizer directed him toward the examination site. Wu Yu carefully stowed the fire talisman away and then walked towards a cave at the foot of the mountain. Above it were the words Immortal Path, the site for stage 1 of the entrance examination. It was said before that around 300 people had met the requirements for the test. On the Immortal Promotion Plateau, Woodao had looked left and right to find Wu Yu, as beside him a fat, burly servant has taken his spot. More than 100,000 disciples were present, necks craned, waiting for the examination to begin. But the most attention-grabbing was the platform of jade floating in the air. On the platform were 3 thrones. The one in the middle was the largest, and on it sat an elder with white hair and a white robe. It was Elder Mu Ge, while on the right seat a white-robed girl. It was Su Yanli, master of Yanli Peak. Elder Mu Ge asked Yanli if she knows any good servants attending the examination. He knew that Yanli would not pay attention to average disciples. Right then, Su Yanli said just one named Wu Yu. Elder Mu Ge got curious about him, so he asked Yanli about him. Yanli replied she is there to gauge his abilities. In the sky, the immortal cranes flocked. One of them was Citijin, and the other 3. Hua Qianyu arrogantly asked what is there to see in a bunch of servants. We were chosen by the sect and are 10 times stronger than this bunch of servants. Citijin smiled by telling them just to watch them do battle like beasts and amuse us. One of the girls, Lu Mushu, advised Citijin to not be arrogant, as among these servants, there are some who have reached the 7th tier of body refining and are stronger than them. In the cave, the battle on the Immortal Path had already started. In front was a stone plaque on which words were written in fresh blood. Just looking at it put fear in the depth of the soul. At present, roughly 300 disciples were in the dark belly of the mountain. Because they were all competitors, there was some distance between them. The official examination was about to start. At this time, disciples undertaking tests had begun to discuss the most powerful among them. They pointed at Zhao Danlong, 14 years old, who is said to be the 7th tier body refining realm. With the strength of 200 war horses and proficiency in using a middle-grade technique, 13 swords of Zhao. The crowd murmured as they saw another youth, Zhu Hao, 13 years old, also a 7th tier and a natural-born fighter. He is also proficient in Demon Slayer 8 style technique and Phantom Step technique. There was one more called Xing Meng, 13 years old. She was also a servant of a core disciple and a commoner. She is proficient in Xing Meng's point. Although these 3 were very good. But Wu Yu did not need to come in first place to become a disciple of the Immortal Sect. Therefore, they were not ultimate rivals. He really respected these young children for reaching the 7th tier at a young age. Wu Yu was just feeling embarrassed when some Immortal Sect disciples appeared in front. From their midst, a black-haired, black-clothed young man announced that the Immortal Path will soon open. Everyone must pass 3 substages to clear the test. The risk is great, and if there is any danger to your life, crush the talisman and the disciples will save their lives. as only 100 out of 300 disciples can emerge from the immortal path and participate in promotion fight. Therefore, should do their best. As the last words fell, the belly of the mountain rumbled, and a massive door opened in front of them, revealing a dark and bloody path. The path was wide, the servants clamored against each other to charge in, afraid of missing out. Wu Yu was in no hurry. He understood that those who took point on this immortal's path were often those who met most painful attacks first. Drawing his long sword of refined steel, Wu Yu advanced in the middle of the pack. In this vast mountain belly, the 300 servants separated and proceeded at high speed. Just as they entered, some screamed and lamented as a red-horned serpent appeared in front. Anything that could make a sixth-tier body refining realm lament was a scary beast indeed. Just as they charged into the forest, in an instant, the sounds of killing rang out. Even though almost everyone was at the same rank, but their physique, experience, and tenacity differed. Some backed off, while some advanced at speed. Wu Yu could only watch those around him killing. The red-horned snake came swinging with bestial power toward Wu Yu. He gripped the long sword in both hands and executed a horizontal slash. He wanted to swat the huge snake and advance forward, but he had not expected the serpent to have the same strength of 100 war horses as him. Before the snake could retaliate, Wu Yu used enormous strength to untangle his sword and brandished the sword into the snake's body that pierced its heart. The red-horned serpent collapsed to the ground. Zhao Danlong, who fighting near, complimented Wu Yu for his technique and exploded out with frightening speed and charged forward, saying that the number 1 position and chi condensation pill will definitely be his to claim. Wu Yu pondered this for a moment. As the entire audience is waiting outside, the first one out would definitely be the center of attention. Previously, Wu Yu's goal was top 100, but thinking of Sun Wudao's eagerness, he wanted to be the first one out now. In the darkness, he shot forward with a beam of golden light. After passing the forest, they came to another terrain. In front of them was all swamp. The swamp soil was very soft, and there were definitely countless beasts hiding below. At this moment, a disciple charged in, and suddenly the marsh shook. A black crocodile charged out and tried to bite the servant between its jaws. Wu Yu was right there as the servant howled. Without much more thought, he immediately rushed up to save the servant girl. As he recognized the black-scaled beast as Fushan alligator from back in his days, he remembered its weakness and stabbed his long sword downwards. The sword pierced through its brain, and the alligator immediately. Wu Yu was calm. He pulled the wounded servant from the jaws of the giant alligator. Wu Yu did not say more. As time was tight, he entered the swamp in the blink of an eye, using ghostly monkey steps, and traversed the swamp. A black-robed sect disciple appeared beside the girl. Seeing her safe, he looked at Wu Yu's figure and turned to the girl to warn her of the dangers. Wu Yu's legs found solid ground and he felt a sense of relief. But in his heart he knew there were heaps of gravel ahead of him. Evidently, the most terrifying test was here. There were 3 waves of beasts, and this was the last one. Circling the huge stone, there was a narrow path ahead and a small path that led to a tunnel. But this narrow path was packed with blood-sucking devil apes. This was a type of black ape, with blood-red body and around 20 feet tall. It was said that these monkeys loved the smell of fresh blood. Only by slaying their way through the monkeys could they pass. Out of the group of servants, some charged forward. Wu Yu was among them. One of the apes charged at Wu Yu with blazing bloody eyes, which made him startled. As the ape tried to punch him, Wu Yu channeled all his energy into his fist and punched back. The force of their clash threw both of them away. Wu Yu realized that it's a test for footwork technique, so he dodged the further attacks using his footwork technique and charged forward. But this was just one amongst many. The small path was filled with many demon apes. The servants behind continued to stream forward and tried to kill the demon apes. Even though the 3 at the 7th tier of body refining tried their best, they were not able to break past the horde. Wu Yu realized that the group method is not favorable for the strong ones, as the people behind will take advantage. That means the best way is to use one's own skills to charge forward. Wu Yu just realized this, and so does the others, especially the strongest 3. They already used their skills to push forward. At this time, Wu Yu naturally wanted to be the first who rushed out. But he was basically the 4th to charge into the horde. Wu Yu continued to charge. Luckily, He had trained the ghostly monkey steps, so he was able to keep up the pace. Just at this moment, a huge howl that reached heaven sounded from the end of the road. All blood-sucking began to howl, which frightened all the servants rushing forward. Apparently, a devil ape had actually absorbed enough blood mist and turned into a demon. Given the power of devil ape, after it became a demon, its frightening power would definitely rise above the martial way. Luckily, it was undergoing its transformation. Qing Mang charged forward to attack the demon ape but got punched by demon ape into the ground and almost collapsed. So the three of them, Zhao, Qing Mang, and Zhu Hua, decided to attack together. The three 7th tier engaged the ape demon. They used the ultimate techniques of cloud-piercing sword, green cloud sword, and demon slash to counter the demon ape. These three were not bad. Their attacks left many wounds on the body of the ape demon, but they were not fatal. Furthermore, their energy expenditure was enormous. It was not that Wu Yu did not want to help, but the three already occupied the ape demon, so Wu Yu had no way to assist. The ape demon was extremely incensed and was spitting blood. With a roar, the scent of blood filled the air, and wherever it touched, a rod appeared. In a panic, Xiao Danlong and the other two hurriedly backed off. Wu Yu's chance had finally come. He gripped his long sword and passed the three, rolling out like the East Sea. This time, he was closest to the exit of the Immortal Path. On the outside of Immortal Promotion Plateau, everyone was cheering for the first person who will pass. Elder Mugu stroked his beard and narrowed his eyes, while watching the exit of Immortal Path, and asked Su Yanli for her opinion that who will emerge victorious. Su Yanli was watching keenly as well. She told that the last stage is to test one's footwork, so Qing Mang will be victorious because of her higher grade footwork technique. Elder Mugu said Zhu Hua might be first as he had lived and grown up amongst beasts. Not only them, but more than 100,000 pairs of eyes were fixed on the Immortal Path exit. The servants sitting beside Sun Wudao also started discussing who will be first, but Sun Wudao was in no mood, as his gaze had constantly been looking for Wu Yu. Just then, the entire crowd roared. Sun Wudao looked over. A silhouette came charging out of the Immortal Path. Instantly, all the quibbles and discussions were silenced when this youth appeared. More than 100,000 people stared at the silhouette on Immortal Promotion Plateau, silently. Even the elder Mugu was rooted in silence. He squinted and squinted, but it was a youth that he had never seen before. Beside him, Su Yanli was probably the first person to see clearly. As she said his name, her lips parted and her eyes danced with surprise. Elder Mugu only understood that he is Wu Yu. He could vaguely sense that there was more to Wu Yu than met the eye. But it's a pity that he is quite old. Only a handful of people knew who Wu Yu was and which mountain he belonged to. Everyone stared at him in shock. A Yanli mountain servant rushed to Sun Wudao and pointed a quavering finger at the youth, telling him that it's Wu Yu who came first. Sun Wudao's ears were hard of hearing and his eyesight was not too good either. Sun Wudao stared. He was just thinking that this person really resembled Wu Yu. It really was Wu Yu. This scared him out of his wits. He thought that Wu Yu had gone to relieve himself, but he got lost and is now on Immortal Promotion Plateau. He thought that Wu Yu blundered his way there. He stared blankly at Wu Yu, and Wu Yu also raised his head. He looked at Sun Wudao. He waved a hand at Sun Wudao, gesturing that it was him. Wu Yu finally accomplished his wish, and his heart was calmed. Sun Wudao clutched his chair with both trembling hands. His eyes were brighter, or rather to him, Wu Yu was now standing in the spot of his dreams. In the sky, Hua Qianyu hurriedly called Situjin to tell him about Wu Yu. But seeing him, Situjin's expression was darker than ever before. Lu Mushua's eyes also glinted savagely, saying how could he have reached 6th tier from 0 in a month? Clearly, he must have been concealing his ability. No wonder Situjin did not manage to kill him. Hua Qianyu's face lost color, and she reminded Situjin of the way he had treated Wu Yu in the past. He will definitely come for revenge. Hearing her, Situjin forced a smile, saying how could I be scared of a lowly servant, who just became an official disciple? There will be a lot of opportunities to deal with him in the future, as there are still further stages of the entrance examination. As long he does not become one of the outer disciples, then he will be forever lower than us. As Elder Mugu rose up, His voice floated in the sky and he congratulated Wu Yu for being the first to emerge from Immortal's path, and also informed him that his name will be recorded in the lore of the Heavenly Sword sect. This was something that could be admired everywhere. Instantly, 100,000 people were cheering Wu Yu's name in a frenzy. He was the pride and dream of all the servants. It was what they all aimed for. If they did not succeed by the time they were 15, then they basically all consigned to Sun Wudao's track. On the other side, after confirming the events, Sun Wudao's expression was astounded. His eyes gradually reddened. After a time, Qing Mang, Zhu Hua, and Zhao Danlong had Salin the Ape Demon and emerged from the Immortal's path. As Zhao Danlong came out, he hefted his sword and charged toward Wu Yu with the intention to kill him, while criticizing him for taking advantage when they were down. Wu Yu turned around and instantly blocked the attack from Zhao Danlong. Elder Mu Ge angrily shouted to stop that evaporated Zhao Danlong's anger. Elder Mu Ge further explained that even though Wu Yu had taken advantage, but he had not broken any rules, so he will not be punished. Zhao Danlong could only stare balefully at Wu Yu and told him to watch out later on the platform battles. Gradually 100 servants made their way out, each one covered in blood, standing under the gaze of thousands. After 100 arrived, the rest could only go back down the mountain. The Immortal Path exit was closed. 100 young men and women stood under the gazes of 100,000. They were full of fighting spirit and fire. Their blood boiled as they embarked on the path to becoming immortal. Elder Mu Ge stood up and started informing the rules of the Immortal Promotion Plateau. He told everyone to make sure to stand up on Immortal Platform, and if any got beaten down or crushed their talisman, they would be considered eliminated. Killing is strictly prohibited, as a killer due to his wicked nature cannot become immortal. Finally, when only 30 disciples are left on the plateau, the battle will be over. Everyone was allowed to team up or fight individually to win the battle. The rules seemed simple, but it was actually very risky. A chaotic battle was the true fight of the immortal Tao. Elder Mu Ge further explained that the tradition of the Sword Sect promotion battle is to obtain the Immortal Sphere, and also the sect has prepared 3 huge bonuses for the disciple who obtain the Immortal Sphere. First was a Spirit Condensation Pill, which increases the success to break through Body Refining Realm into Qi Condensation Realm. The second prize was a supreme-grade weapon called Demon Banishing Blade. It has mystical properties and can even compare to normal immortal treasure. The third prize will be eligible for becoming core disciple. Elder Mu Ge further explained that whoever can take the Immortal Sphere and hold it for 60 breaths of time will be deemed to be the owner of it, and rank first. Hearing about the prizes, the crowd gasped. The Spirit Condensation Pill and Demon Banishing Blade were something coveted by even the core disciples. Elder Mu Ge concluded his announcement. And then the Immortal Promotion Plateau's battle formally began. The Immortal Sphere rose up into the air, then plummeted with terrifying speed. Elder Mu Ge pulled a move, and the Immortal Sphere landed on Wu Yu's head. As it descended, all the candidates surged toward Wu Yu's direction. At this time, the danger is quite high as the battle has just started, and it's when there are most competitors. Whoever holds the sphere will definitely be mobbed. Wu Yu had already thought it out. At this time, when a majority of the candidates were rushing at him, he found an exit and then fled. Just as he fled, his original position was filled with people. Immediately it was chaos. Wu Yu stayed at the edges of the promotion plateau. There were too many people present, and it was inconvenient to act. Even though Wu Yu was standing at the periphery, someone was staring at him. He was a tall and sturdy servant, a full head taller than him. He was charging toward Wu Yu. Wu Yu instantly took his stance and unleashed a blow using the technique Tide Chopper, a wave breaker to counter the opponent. It was the first move of the Eastern Sea Whale's slaying sword. As their weapons clashed, they created a huge sound. Wu Yu's hands were quick. He hit the weak spot on the battle axe and forced his opponent's axe to fall from his hands. Although his opponent was broad of shoulders, Wu Yu was still superior in terms of strength. With a sweep of his leg, he felled the brawny man. Wu Yu crashed heavily into him and his opponent flew out cleanly, landing with a rumble outside the Immortal Promotion Plateau. In the sky, Situjin was sitting atop his immortal crane. Seeing this, both guys and girls had ugly expressions. Hua Qianyu spoke to Situ Jin, saying even the 6th-tier body refining realm was easily defeated by him. He is definitely on our level. But Situ Jin arrogantly said, even if Wu Yu is this capable, he will be nothing in front of him. As the fight goes on, everyone's attention shifts towards Zhao Danlong, as he had taken hold of Immortal Sphere and many people were ganging on him. Zhao Danlong was in a tough spot. He displayed countless tactics to intimidate his opponents. He held the sphere for around 20 breaths and more than 10 people were eliminated in this time. But in the next instant, he was ambushed by Zhu Hua and lost the Immortal Sphere while almost getting knocked off the Immortal Promotion Plateau. Zhao Danlong was covered in blood and he fell heavily to the side. Even though Zhao Danlong was heavily injured, he was still able to hold on to stay on the Immortal platform. Just as he got hold of himself, he noticed Wu Yu nearby. Zhao Danlong laughed coldly and shouted at Wu Yu to be a coward for hiding in the periphery of the platform. Hearing it, Wu Yu replied in a chill tone that battles are not one-dimensional, so he always favored the result, not the method. Zhao Danlong gnashed his teeth as he called him a coward and moved away. The entire melee was very intense. At present, the one being surrounded was Zhu Hua, who still held the Immortal Sphere. Just while he was countering the attacks, Jing Meng, who had waited for this moment, charged forward and attacked Zhu Hua. As Zhu Hua blocked her attack, Jing Meng did not waste any time and hid in the crowd. Zhu Hua had to defend the sphere. But it was a pity that he had to defend himself against, and he only had one hand to support it with one hand. A bolt of green light flashed past. Zhu Hua's arm was injured and his body had been scored by countless blades. He fell into Zhao Danlong's footsteps. Elder Mu Ge smiled, saying that now only Qing Meng has a chance of taking Immortal Sphere. Qing Meng was one of his disciples' younger sisters. If her future was bright, he would rise as well. Su Yanlo pointed towards the unwounded Wu Yu. Elder Mu Ge explained that Wu Yu had been biding his time by staying at the periphery of the Immortal platform. He might be good but not good as Qing Meng. Qing Meng was clever. After the little girl wounded Zhu Hua, she did not immediately snatch the sphere, but retreated to the edge, letting the other servants fight. Zhu Hua and Zhao Danlong were heavily injured, and they were not Qing Meng's match, so the little girl lifted her head to look at Wu Yu and asked him if he wants to compete for Immortal Sphere. Wu Yu gripped the long sword and waded in. Finally, it was time to act. Qing Meng did not say any more. Her Qing Meng's point weaved through the crowd. A few sword slashes flashed out, and the Immortal Sphere was in her hands. After catching it, Qing Meng instantly shouted, if anyone tried to snatch it again, she will not show mercy. The little girl's eyes widened and scared the competitors into retreating. There were only about 40 people left, and perhaps only 10 had set their hearts on the sphere, but the chances of them teaming up were low. Qing Meng held the Immortal Sphere in one hand and gestured at Wu Yu with the other, which held a long sword to challenge him. At this time, all eyes fell on these two. This was the turn of events for Wu Yu. But Wu Yu would not give up on the Immortal Sphere. Presently, he was the only one who dared to fight Qing Meng. Under thousands of gazes, Wu Yu's eyes shimmered with golden light, and he rushed forward with his long sword. He used the technique Tide Chopper, Wave Breaker, the first move of Whale's slaying sword. Qing Meng only needed to block him, and then hold on to the sphere for 60 breaths. She used the green cloud sword shadow technique. Her movements were exquisite. Her sword shimmered a green cloud that formed in front of Wu Yu. His sword pierced the cloud and reached Qing Meng in an instant. But a pity it did not wound Qing Meng. The girl's feet moved, and with sublime footwork, she avoided his attack. Qing Meng went around him to attack, but Wu Yu instantly avoided the attack. Wu Yu seized this chance and pressed forward. Qing Meng could only use her Qing Meng's footwork to continue retreating. Wu Yu instantly charged forward using East Sea Whale Cleave. He gripped his long sword, pointed towards the sky, and sliced down violently. It came crashing down on Qing Meng's head. Qing Meng's face had finally changed. Suddenly, the block with her technique was broken before it was even engaged, and Wu Yu's sword came crashing down. Qing Meng retreated a few steps. Just as she was about to counter, her foot lost surface. Qing Meng's face paled. Wu Yu instantly rushed forward to catch Qing Meng as she was falling and brought her back onto the platform. He offered to fight again, but Qing Meng admitted her defeat and threw the Immortal Sphere down. Wu Yu caught the immortal sphere. He had not thought that Qing Mang would be so principled at such a young age, to accept with no excuses. Wu Yu held the immortal sphere aloft, and no one came to fight for it, because his techniques were too powerful. As the time ended, the entire immortal promotion plateau was already discussing loudly. Su Yanli's face was lit with an alluring smile as she watched Wu Yu win the competition. Elder Mu Ge as overseer announced that Wu Yu had received the immortal sphere and will be crowned as the champion of the entrance examination. When Wu Yu heard this news, he was a little flustered. He had only wanted to enter the immortal sect. Who would have thought he would become the champion of examination? 100,000 servants started cheering for Wu Yu. In that instant, he was the hero in their hearts. And he embodied their dreams. Qing Mang pouted a little and congratulated Wu Yu. Although she was not thoroughly happy, she still said it. Wu Yu smiled back and offered Qing Mang to become friends. Qing Mang blushed as she replied back, accepting his friendship. A servant was shouting beside Sun Wukong that Wu Yu has won the competition and will become an immortal from now on. Sun Wukong was in a dazed state and regained his senses. His eyes brimmed with hot tears as he declared having no regrets in life from today onwards. High in the air, Hua Qianyu saw Sitijin shaking with anger. His face was ugly, and she felt a tinge of pity. At the side, Wang Yang's mouth was twitching, but he did not dare say more. Everyone talked about Wu Yu criticizing him, only Sitijin did not say anything. He felt like his face had been slapped. He was full of anger, and he had no way to vent it. On the immortal platform, Elder Mu Ge announced that those who passed will become official disciples of Heavenly Sword Sect and asked them to follow him. As for Su Yanli, she seemed to have already left. Wu Yu politely asked Elder if he can wait for some time, as he had to arrange for someone to bring Sun Wukong back. At that time all servants had already left, but Sun Wukong had stayed put. Wu Yu expressed his thanks to the elder as permitted him, then went toward the crowd, bounding over to Sun Wukong, who have been waiting for him. Wu Yu looked at him. Wudao was every bit as pleasantly surprised as he had imagined. The servants besides Wudao respectfully called Wu Yu Heavenly Immortal Wu and guaranteed Wu Yu that they take Wudao back safely. Elder Mu Ji could not be kept waiting for too long. Wu Yu hurriedly nodded and then briefly informed Sun Wudao before turning to leave. He returned to Mu Gu, ready to leave. A bunch of servants escorting Wudao were all from Yanli Peak. They were extremely happy as one of them had become heavenly immortal and in the future their lives will be at ease. They escorted Wudao across the mountain while singing songs. The servants sang as they walked. Above them, the immortal cranes soared. Hua Qianyu suddenly asked Sitijin to look below. Sitijin was irritated. She told him that it was these bunch of servants that lived with Wu Yu and that the old man defended Wu Yu. Sitijin decided to create trouble for Wu Yu. That's all for today. If you like part 3 of this manhwa, just comment below. Thanks for watching and please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment to get epic content on this channel. See you next time.